Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film Redline from 2010. Redline has some of the most amazing animated racing scenes I've probably ever seen and probably ever made in the medium. The opening and closing are simply incredible. There's no way if you see this film that you can forget them. And they took over 7 years to make, over 100,000 drawings. It's all hand drawn, and it's just simply amazing in a really crazy kinetic style that you can't believe they put so much detail in a shot that was only on the screen for a couple of seconds. And you just wonder at the fact that someone really made this with their hands and how just immersive and crazy and intense some of these chase sequences are. Now, there's a reason I'm not saying this is one of the great racing movies. I think that's because some of these sequences are simply great. They're amazing. They're part of the reason I actually really love this movie and keep trying to revisit it, hoping that I'm kind of wrong about the script, hoping I kind of saw it the wrong way, which the original time I saw it, I was so hyped up to see it. I loved watching the trailer, seeing all the amazing shots, particularly the opening and the closing chase, and thinking like, if the whole movie's like this, there's no way I'm going to hate it. But the structure of the plot doesn't really work as well and isn't as amazing as those sequences. It's almost like those sequences dwarf the rest of the movie in such an extreme way that the rest of the movie just doesn't really measure up. And also, I think the storytelling isn't as complete. It's kind of odd to say because I like racing movies. I especially like fantasy kind of race movies. And a movie like this has so much going for it, has so much energy, you almost really want it to be really good. But really, the storytelling isn't there as much as the animation. And even though the animation is simply incredible, even though they spent years, Madhouse, their production company, made this film and they did an amazing job, it just didn't feel like they spent 7 years on the story. It felt like they spent 7 years on the animation, and it kind of felt like they maybe should have spent time on both those things rather than one of those things, because what they turned out with was a really impressive, amazingly made movie that doesn't really tell the best story. In the far future, when there's all these crazy racing on different planets with all these alien creatures, and JP in the opening sequence is about to win the yellow line but fails and pulls the race because his manager is in with some gangsters, and at the last minute they have him lose so that they can make lots of money on betting. And then the girl that he likes, Sonoshi, I think that's how you say her name, Sonoshi McLaren, which is a very obvious reference to a car company, so bringing it up is stupid, but I just did, so there we go. JP thinks his racing career is over until a lot of people start to pull out of the big tournament at the end of the season, which is Redline. And Redline takes all of the best racers from all of the various competitions and puts them on this amazing, crazy, no holds bars, no rules kind of racing challenge. And this year it's going to be put on Robo World, and Robo World is crazy. There's tons of robots shooting people. They don't want the race to be held there, so a lot of people are pulling out, which then they go out for a vote of the fans, and the fans vote Sweet JP in to the race at Redline. So he has to go to Robo World, hopefully not get destroyed or kidnapped or arrested or something, and eventually compete in the amazing, crazy race that Redline is, and hopefully win, because it's always been his dream to win and not throw the race, like he's been doing throughout his career, and eventually make his racing dreams come true, and hopefully beat everyone else who has the exact same dream. I really respect this film, and I really love to watch this film. Particularly, I think the opening chase sequence is probably some of the best storytelling this film has to offer, and it shows how great visual storytelling can be. But there's a lot of big mistakes this film makes storytelling-wise that it never can really catch up with. And not to compare this film to Fury Road or Speed Racer, but I think those two films understand the conflicts that are at heart as much as understand the racing parts of it, and are able to balance them. The director of this film, Takashi Koike, I know he had been around for a while, so it's a little surprising this feels like a much younger director storytelling wise. It feels like someone who doesn't understand careful storytelling. And when you look at Speed Racer and Fury Road, those are done by much more experienced directors who do understand storytelling and understand how to make a well-structured plot and how to understand that conflict. Now, Speed Racer isn't actually the best example because Speed Racer goes on way too long, but Fury Road is a much better example because George Miller is a very experienced director and how carefully laid out that plot is, and it culminates into a really powerful ending. Redline kind of wants to have a powerful ending, and it does kind of, but the end doesn't seem to mean as much. They want to get to that moment, but they don't know how to structure it to get to that payoff. And the particular problem with this film, it's not really JP and his manager and his mechanic. That part I actually think is very well established and works very well. It's JP and Sonoshi, and that relationship kind of gets revealed slowly, and I think that's one of the film's biggest mistakes, is it really should have been more established at the beginning of the film. It should have been simpler. The thing about race movies is, I mean, sure, they are kind of dumb and stuff, and it's more about the visuals, but it's almost like more simpler, more direct storytelling. And when you don't have that, it muddles up the plot in a way that doesn't work for clarity. It's kind of like trying to slowly reveal something. It doesn't work with this, and it really doesn't work with Redline. And that I didn't get to build that relationship as much when I'm meeting JP. I should also be meeting his conflict. Part of his conflict is her, and I'm not being introduced to that. I'm being introduced to the fact of his love of racing and how it's been co-opted by the mafia. But then when you're not having that connection that is clearly there and is really important to the end of your movie, it feels like I'm kind of on a different plot thread all of a sudden, but also the one you were establishing as well makes it muddled. A film that tries to do too much, and I almost feel like this should actually be shorter. The sections between the beginning race and the end race, which is like most of the movie, I liked how they introduced everybody in the race, but I wish they had concentrated more on Sweet JP and Sonoshi, and maybe like the machine head guy, but like the evil cop and the two princess girls, and like there are just way too many characters in this. And I understand to establish them in a certain degree. When you have these race movies with all this kinetic energy and all these ideas and all these different drawings, and it's like so impressive, it's crazy. It almost feels like they spent 7 years coming up with too many ideas and just ran them all together and hoped it would kind of work. And that's Redline's biggest fault. Redline is having all these crazy things happening. It's fun, it's amazing, and those chase sequences, I don't really find very much wrong with those. It's just what is happening in the middle to build them and make the final chase sequence mean more doesn't feel like it works as well as like something like Fury Road or something like Speed Racer, where they make the end chase sequence mean a lot to you and you're on the edge of your seat and you like feel like you went through something. And in Redline, I was like, so when are we getting the chase? Like I would really, that opening was awesome. I felt like a junkie looking for a fix. I was like, oh, come on, give me that fucking feeling. Give me that feeling. No, I mean, I understand he needs to build a car in, you know, Robo World. I get it, but just give me a fucking race. And it just like took forever to get there. When it slowed down initially, I was cool with it. I accepted it, like, you know, we can't have just a constant race in a movie. That wouldn't make an amazing movie like Fury Road. Redline, having those breaks didn't seem to work for it. It seemed to slow you down, and I'm just sitting on the couch watching Redline going, oh, so is there another chase? I thought this was a race movie, and this plot's not doing it for me. So is the racing coming back? They don't seem to understand what they're doing with those parts. It's cool to have all these different characters and aliens that is in this far off future that's just kind of an excuse to have all these weird creatures and aliens. And the style's great. It's very much done in a, like, kind of like a heavy metal comic book, very Jack Kirby inspired, especially in the shading, but not in the expression. A lot of times when they're having conversations, I felt like the character design didn't allow for a lot of expression in those scenes, whereas when you're having the chase sequences, everybody seemed to have to play a lot of expression. That came across very well. Felt like in the dialogue scenes, like they maybe didn't spend as long on those. Like the 7 years, felt like maybe they spent the 7 years on the two racing sequences, and all the dialogue sequences they did in like a week and went home early or something. It just didn't have as much expression on it. The thing about Jack Kirby is a lot of his panels had a lot of expression on them. That's why it came alive. That's why he was such an influential artist. And Redline almost seems to get the style of it. It seems to save that style for the scenes that you're actually seeing the movie for. It's not surprising you because it's saving everything for the special, the surprise, the big finale. And during the dialogue scenes, it feels a little more stilted, and I think that wasn't as fun. It is fun seeing all these cool characters and robots and crazy things. It's very heavy metal inspired, and it's kind of cool, that heavy metal atmosphere where suddenly all these things are there because who cares? Don't think about it. And you can have a lot of fun with that, and I think Redline goes way too much into, oh, who cares how these aliens are here? I don't know, it's the future, just deal with it. And that's cool, and that's fun, and it gets into that energy when it can be really fun, but when it slows down, you get the wear and tear of that idea, like that none of this is based on anything, that they don't have as well defined of a point to Redline. I'm always sad to kind of bash this film because when you hear a film took all these years to make and develop, and there's all these drawings and there's all this artistry, you kind of just want to hail it and say like, hey, it's an amazing film, it's crazy, people should be seeing more stuff like this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think the opening sequence especially is probably one of the greatest chase sequences in all of animation, and maybe in all of cinema. And also the end chase sequence is pretty cool as well. But that's not a story. Those are just two awesome sequences. And that's what's always held me back from Redline. Now, I liked it more this time. I saw it when it initially came out, and I had seen it in a few years, and I wanted to revisit it because I always felt bad for not liking it. And I think I'm just going to get over to the fact that these were cool sequences. There's parts of movies you can like, but also I have to accept that this isn't the greatest story. Sometimes you can like a film and you can like things about a film, and it cannot have the greatest story. JP's probably the most compelling character in his pit crew, but like all their stuff about Robo-World, the Robo-World stuff should have really been brought down. Those aren't compelling or interesting characters that are properly developed. It was kind of like, oh, I really care about the political inner turmoil. And I think Sonoshi should have been much better developed. I feel like if that relationship had been developed further, you could have had an awesome movie. That's the thing I think that bugs me about Redline, is every time I watch him, like, I could feel like if you did this and you cut down this and you had it be more from his perspective and things, I feel like there's a good movie in there. So I think that's probably where my frustration comes from, where I kind of don't want to think about it because it upsets me, because it's like, I feel like you were so close, yet you spent like 7 years. They made like 4 Harry Potter movies in that time. I still appreciate this movie. I love the artistry to it. I love those chase sequences. I really like the style and how when they go the warp speed thing, it stretches them out. How kind of flexible the animation is in this film. Maybe some could say it's over animated, but I would say it's amazingly animated. And it has that spirit of a great chase movie, the spirit of a great animation movie, and the spirit of animation where there's a whole theory in animation that anything is possible. And in those chase sequences, I felt that. I felt that the way Fleischer Studios did it. I felt that in the way that like anything is possible. It's animation. We can draw it. We don't have to pay for an expensive car in a CG studio. We're just gonna draw it. And that's an amazing, beautiful thing to behold. And I think that's why those sequences get into that. But having it slow down, you really needed something to back that up. And it's kind of just something between two chase sequences that needs to be cleared up and better defined, and really fine storytelling in between that to complement these amazing sequences, which it doesn't do, unfortunately. Redline is an incredibly ambitious, awesome movie, and it has a lot of great things about it, but unfortunately, storytelling just really isn't one of them. But maybe you're not watching it for storytelling. Maybe you're just gonna get drunk with your friends and get a little too messed up and probably fall asleep in between, and someone will wake you up and you can be wowed all over again by it. And in that way, it's an awesome movie. But in the actual terms of actual storytelling, I just don't think it measures up, unfortunately. And I'm sad to say that, because those sequences that I did like thrilled me and were probably some of the most impressive, amazing, beautiful animation that we might even see this century. And it's a sad thing to kind of demote it because of its storytelling, but it just didn't measure up to the amazing animation that came at the beginning and at the end. So if you have seen Redline and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.